Yo, what's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Two-Man Game. Cone, Ryan, you know the drill here. You got our hosts. Ryan, how are you doing?
Not too bad, man. I'm pretty tired. I know I work today, but I have off the next, 6 days because I'm traveling to Illinois for a nationally acclaimed disc golf tournament. I think it's the largest amateur tournament in the world by participants. There's 2,500 people in it, I think.
Damn.
So yeah, I'm flying to Illinois tomorrow afternoon to go do that. So we're making sure we get this recording done tonight, so that way we have an episode while I'm gone.
Yeah, I think it's been like 9 days or so since we've done one. It's been a little bit. There's really nothing going on in the off season at the moment, so it makes things tough. We're waiting on the Dame trade, a Harden trade if it's going to happen, literally anything, but I don't think we're getting anything for a little while. So it's tough. So we're just going to try and do some fun stuff over here. We figured while we're waiting on trades, it would be fun to go ahead and regrade some of the biggest trades that have happened in the last few years.
Before you get into it, you didn't even give me a chance to ask how you were doing.
Oh, I mean, if you want to go for it, go for it.
How are you doing?
As I take a sip of water the second you ask the question, I'm doing fine. I was going to meet up with Ryan in Illinois. Some of y'all might remember I mentioned that in a video, but flights are stupid expensive out there right now from New York City. And I'm supposed to be getting like some airline miles to like get like free flights and stuff like that because I signed up for this credit card. They hooked me in. They're like, oh, we'll give you all these free airline miles. I'm like, cool, I'll do that. Like, no big deal. I was looking at another credit card anyway, so build credit because apparently that's a thing adults have to do. And now the miles aren't coming in because I signed up for it. I did like the little reward thing. All I had to do is make like one purchase, and I'm not giving them any credit because they've given me my airline miles. So I'm not going to shout them out at all. But yeah, I'm still waiting on that because apparently it's supposed to take 4 to 6 weeks.
Are you sure there wasn't any fine print? Because I looked into the same card because I booked through the same flight company that you were going to look at, and they said I would have to spend $2,000 before we got the miles. So
oh no, mine says it's just waiting right now for 4 to 6 weeks, or it says we wait 4 to 6 weeks before you get the airline miles, which is super stupid.
Yeah,
because I feel like it should be an automatic process, but whatever. Maybe I got scammed, so we'll see. But yeah, so I wasn't able to get out to Illinois, but I am going to be back home visiting my family for like a month or so. So Ryan and I will be able to do some in-person pod episodes potentially, which is exciting. But yeah, also while we're here at the beginning, please leave a like on the video. It helps us out a lot. Also subscribe to the YouTube channel where you're dropping these videos, podcast episodes regularly, and also random other content in the off season as it comes around. We're also, on Spotify. Apple's being weird. Apple's like weird with podcasts, so I'm trying to get it on there. So bear with me on that. But yeah, we're on Spotify too. Go check us out on Spotify. Download the podcast. Leave a 5-star review, whatever. Comment down below, letting us know if there's any other trades that you want us to grade or any other like fun games or video ideas that you have in the comments. And if we use one of those, we'll make sure to shout you out. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and get into some of these trades. We've just picked out a bunch of random like big trades. This isn't every single big trade. Again, if you want to see us do another episode of this, let us know because, again, it's been a very boring offseason recently, so we've got a bunch of time to kill. And I figured we could start off with probably the top 2 that are on the Google Doc, Ryan, the ones that happened last offseason.
Yeah. I just think it's funny, by the way, that we're so bored and there's no trades going on that we're having to look at old trades to kind of like feed our hunger to talk about. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like, all right, any fine. Kind of if you won't give us trades, we'll just go look back at the old ones and relive the glory days.
Yeah, exactly. Time when actually things happen or were happening in the offseason. The Dame trade request happened, and now since then it's been nonstop reports from Shams and Woj being like, oh, nothing's happened. We'll keep you updated. Like every single week, they're like, yep, nothing new. And I think there was some report today that there's been like literally no significant traction of any kind on a trade. So it's not going to happen for a while. So instead, like you said, we're going to talk about old ones because that's what we've kind of come to at this point. So yeah, the first 2 we have are from last offseason. It's the 2 trades that the Utah Jazz made. We've got the Rudy Gobert trade, which sent Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverley, Leandro Balmaro, Walker Kessler, Jared Vanderbilt, a 2023 first-round pick that just became Keontae George, a 2025 first-round pick, a 2026 first-round pick swap, 2027 first, and 2029 first. All of that over to the Utah Jazz in exchange for Rudy Gobert to the Minnesota Timberwolves. I don't know if we want to do like a full like grading type of thing or if we just want to kind of recap them. But what are your thoughts so far on this deal?
So it's basically you got a bunch of role players and essentially, how many first round picks did you say it was? I'm trying to count.
It was 2023, 5, 7,
so technically
9, 4.
5 because if Walker Kessler was a first round pick,
5 first. 5. Yeah.
So, I mean, you got a bunch of role players, which, a lot of them ended up getting flipped. Like, I know, Malik ended up going to the Lakers. Vanderbilt ended up going to the Lakers. Pat Bev played freaking, I feel like, in half the NBA last year. But,
yeah.
But I just think it didn't work out last season. The Wolves didn't really have a successful season. But we also had a long injury history for Cat last year. He didn't play a lot.
He didn't play from like Black Friday till like mid-March, roughly.
But even when
like
they were on the court together, I don't think they were that great, were they? They didn't grade out too well.
Nah, not great. It didn't look phenomenal. But again, like it's a too big situation, which is weird in and of itself. So it kind of takes some time to gel a little bit. So I'm not writing them off entirely, but yeah, from the first season, it wasn't the most promising thing. Like you said, they got some role players that they were able to flip. I mean, I think probably the first thing we have to talk about with this deal is Walker Kessler going over there and being one of the best rim protectors in the league last season for the Utah Jazz.
You trade arguably the best rim defender in the league, and you get one of the best back. It's so funny.
Yeah, literally in the exact same deal, you go from Rudy Gobert, who's won multiple depoys, to Walker Kessler, who feels like he could probably win one at some point. Like it's just crazy how that worked. He was amazing for them. He finished third, I think, in Rookie of the Year voting, second or third, one of the two. But he was phenomenal in his first season. And I mean, just getting him alone plus some draft capital would have been solid. But it's, like you said, it's a ton of draft capital. 2023 first, which already turned into Keontae George, who I'm super high on. He balled in the summer league. I'm a big Keontae George believer. He was going off in the summer league. They're kind of looking for a guard over there. It feels like they've got Lauri Markkanen, Walker Kessler in the front court. They also had John Collins. We'll see what happens with him. There's also Taylor Hendricks as an option in the front court. Like, to me, it feels like they've kind of got their front court of the future pretty much worked out at this point. They're just trying to find some guards. Like Sexton, we'll see what happens with him. Ochai Agbaji's interesting as a guard over there, like at the 2 spot, or he could flip over to the 3-2, bit of a wing. But that, like, lead guard is kind of up in the air. And Keontae George already feels like he could be that guy in their first draft, at like in this actual rebuilding process. They got him not even with their first pick. They got Taylor Hendricks with 9, and we're able to get Keontae George with that Timberwolves pick later on, and he just killed it in summer league. He looks really good out there. So they got their center of the future in Walker Kessler, already one of the best rim protectors in the league. They got a bunch of role players who were able to flip in Jared Vanderbilt, Malik Beasley, Pat Bev, who they all sent to the Lakers at like different points in the season. They got a 2025 first, a 2026 swap, a 2027 first, and a 2029 first, which you might think those might not be great picks because they do have Anthony Edwards. So the Wolves are probably going to be at least solid for a while. But I mean, who knows what happens by 2029 with the way that players move in the league nowadays? Like, there's a chance Anthony Edwards could like not be there anymore. Like, we didn't think Donovan Mitchell was going to be gone a few years ago at this point.
Yeah, I mean, and not to mention too, like, just because a pick ends up being like a 15 to 20 doesn't mean you're not going to get a star player, man. Like, I mean, Don wasn't Don like a barely a lottery
Donovan Mitchell was he was Donovan Mitchell was pick 13, I think 13 or 14. So yeah, right at the end of the lottery.
I think and then your boy Shea, wasn't he he was up there too, wasn't he? I think Shea was 12 or 13.
Shea was 11, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, it's like you don't need you
don't have to be a top pick. Yeah.
If there's one season where they deal with injuries or something like that, and all of a sudden they just barely miss the playoffs. I mean, we'll talk about Jalen Williams later, but we got him from that Clippers Paul George, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander trade because injuries stopped them from making the playoffs one year. That's how we got J-Dub. So even though the Clippers were good at that point, like, just having the possibility of that draft capital. And I mean, Walker Kessler was like the 20th pick, right around the 20s.
So many people on Twitter and draft night thought that was a bad pick too.
Yeah,
like, obviously, maybe in the moment it was bad for the Timberwolves, but the people were just saying that he was picked too high in general, like not because of because of the fit.
Just Walker Kessler was he was the 22nd pick.
Like, I had so many people say, like, most overrated player in the draft was Walker Kessler. I remember there were so many people hating on him, saying his skills weren't going to translate and all that. And it's not like he's some, like, offensive superstar, but the defense is definitely translated. He can at least, finish at the rim, block shots. Like, I feel like his floor is, like, very, very, very solid backup. But I think...
and that's, like, I mean, to me, it's like, even if he doesn't really improve, he's an incredible rim protector, like, already. Yeah. Like, he's already going to be a defensive anchor, which is incredible from a rookie. We, like, never see that. Like, Walker Kessler is already really good after his first season. So That's worked out for them. The 22nd overall picks. Like you said, you don't need these picks to be like the top 5 picks or anything like that. Like just having that draft
just
equity
get them all, man.
And giving yourself a chance. Yeah, exactly. Like the exact same thing there. It's part of why, as a Thunder fan, I've loved us just getting random draft picks, because with that Clipper situation, like again, they were really good. They were considered championship contenders. They dealt with some injuries, and we just happened to luck into Jalen Williams at that spot. If you just give yourself opportunities, there's chances that you get lucky with draft capital. So, I mean, for all the reasons we've talked about, like I think we both agree this trade was a home run for the Jazz. Like I give them like an A+ for this deal. Rudy Gobert was making a ton of money, and he still is a really good player and was when they dealt him. But to get 1, 2, 3, 4 first-round picks, 5 if we include Walker Kessler, who had just been drafted in the first round, as well as a 2026 pick swap. You got Keontae George with one of those picks, role players that you were able to flip. Like they hit this out of the park. I can't say enough positive things from the Jazz perspective about this. It's like an A+.
Do you remember who went first in that trade, or in the series of trades? Did Donovan get traded first, or did Rudy get traded first?
Rudy got traded first.
And I think that worked in the Jazz's favor, because I think they were still kind of on edge on whether they wanted to blow it up or not. Mm-hmm. And I think the fact that the Wolves just kind of like threw everything at them kind of, was that first domino to fall. Because I don't think they really felt like they felt the pressure to kind of make a big splash or to separate, their star players. Mm-hmm. But I do think the fact that they needed to get wowed like that in order to make that move. So it's almost like they had the leverage to get the, really good package, because it's like we'll still be a playoff team, worst case scenario, with second round exit kind of deal, because, there's every year they were top 4 seed, it seemed like. With those
or first round exit. The last season they were rough. But yeah, I see what you're saying. Like, I think it also helped with Gobert being traded first, in my opinion. It also helped because when you still have Donovan Mitchell on the roster, who's relatively young, like you could theoretically still keep Donovan around. You don't have to deal him. But if they had dealt Donovan first, then it feels like Gobert's a bit more expendable. Like you probably don't keep around a near 30-year-old like center on a big time contract, if you're trying to rebuild, or if you trade your superstar in Donovan Mitchell, like you probably don't keep him around. So I think that also kind of leveraged into their favor by the Timberwolves really just helped out the Jazz a ton. They're like, we're giving you this big time offer, and the Jazz took it. Still Donovan Mitchell, and it was like, oh, we might trade him, we might not. It seemed more likely that they would, and eventually, Cleveland ends up snagging him, which we'll talk about in a moment.
But Can I throw something out there real quick?
Go for it.
I think it's interesting that the Wolves didn't try. I mean, maybe they did, because, we don't know what's going on in the front offices. But I would have almost feel like with Towns and Edwards, it would have been really, really interesting if they try to do a similar package to pry Donovan away. You know what I mean? And then partner Donovan, Edwards, and Towns.
That would have been interesting. I remember when the offseason rolled around, it was like all of a sudden all these rumors started popping up that the Timberwolves were looking into trades for a big, and everyone was a bit confused, thinking, Cat's the big, like what are they going for? But clearly they didn't believe in him as like a defensive anchor. They felt like he could work more as a 4.
Yep.
And then, there was rumors that they were looking at Clint Capella as an option, that he was a guy they were really interested in.
Because that's a defensive anchor.
Yeah, and then they ended up. I mean, it would have helped. I guess it would have costed them a little bit less than Gobert, so maybe that was the angle they were going for
instead of the 5.
But yeah, so I don't know. Like, it would have been interesting if they went for Donovan Mitchell instead. Like that backcourt, especially because Anthony Edwards has become a better defender at this point. Like it might have been a bit of a small backcourt. How tall is Anthony Edwards? Is he like 6'3"? I think
he's taller than that.
He might be 6'5", actually. 6'4".
He's literally right in a lot of things.
Literally right in the middle of the heights. And then Don Mitchell 6'1", right? Yeah, okay. So it's a bit of a small backcourt. Like you could definitely make it work, but I think they would have needed a better rim protector than Cat. To me, I still think a Cat trade is probably what's going to have to save the Timberwolves at some point. I don't see them trading Gobert anytime soon because they put all the draft capital into him. And I like Cat. I think he's a good player. I just don't think this double big thing is going to work. Again, we have not seen it for a full season. I was super high on the Timberwolves as a regular season team.
Oh, I think we all were.
But yeah, when the Gobert trade came around, I was like, okay, I think they're going to be one of the better teams in the regular season. But when the playoffs come around, I don't see them as like a championship contender. Instead, they were, towards the bottom of the standings. And maybe with Cat for a full year, the development of Jaden McDaniels, Anthony Edwards taking a leap, maybe they could still be one of those teams that's really competitive in the Western Conference this upcoming season and, isn't a championship contender, but they're at least interesting in the West. I mean, they gave the Nuggets a pretty tough series when they were playing, but I don't know. To me, I feel like eventually they might have to trade Cat to make this thing work. And I think that might come sooner than later. I know there are rumors about that being a possibility in this offseason. Of course, it hasn't happened, but I don't know. Well, I think this season is going to tell us a lot if the two of them stay healthy. For now, I kind of want to give the Timberwolves an incomplete grade because I don't know quite how this thing's going to go. But if I had to give them a grade right now, I would say like a D plus maybe, because there still is that potential. Yeah. But with the assets that they've given up, it doesn't look great so far.
I went blurry again, man. My camera hates me.
No, you got to do like the hand in front thing. That's what we've learned works, I think.
No, I'm still blurry.
You're better, but yeah, you're still a bit blurry. I don't know how you keep coming out of focus. Maybe we might need to change a setting on your webcam or something when I get back there. I'll take a look at it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I look extremely faded right now.
Do you have a grade specifically for the Timberwolves in the Rudy Gobert trade?
Yeah, so I was gonna probably give them a D too because they gave up a lot, and it could be a potential disaster class if they end up stinking, and those picks end up becoming some really good players. So I think, like you say, there's potential for the trade to get better. I think there's just as much potential for the trade to go down, especially if
there is
those picks end up getting some crazy players. And I just think at the same time, I just feel like with those kind of assets, you could have probably done something better to improve your team. I know they wanted better rim protection, but I feel like you could have done that and still use all those assets to improve the roster as a whole. So with that, actually, with that being said, I'm giving it an F.
I don't want to go that hard because, again, I think it could still work, but we're gonna have to see what happens with that.
I'll just be blurry the whole episode. You keep going.
You might have to try getting a bit closer to the webcam. Try that, and then back up.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go. Okay, maybe that's the method we need to try from now. But yeah, those are our Rudy Gobert thoughts. Let's go over now to the other Jazz trade, the Donovan Mitchell deal. We had also just a preview real quick if you're wondering other deals we're gonna do. We're going to do the Donovan Mitchell trade. We're going to talk about the Anthony Davis deal, him getting sent over to the Lakers. We're talking about both the Harden trades, not the Thunder one. If you want us to go further back in history, we could do like a more historic episode. But there's no need to talk about that one. The Harden trade from Houston to Brooklyn, and then the one over to Philly. The Shea Clippers, Paul George trade. We'll talk about that one. Drew Holiday going to the Bucks. We'll talk a little bit about DeMar DeRozan going to the Bulls, Lakers trading for Russell Westbrook, and then the two CP3 trades, the one where he got sent to the Thunder and the one where he got sent to the Suns. We don't need to talk about the more recent one with him getting sent, of course, to the Golden State Warriors, because that literally just happened. So just a preview of some other deals we're going to talk about. But like I said, going back to Donovan Mitchell, Lauri Markkanen, Colin Sexton, Ochai Agbaji, 2025 first, 2026 swap, 2027 first, 2028 swap, and a 2029 first. So that is 1, 2, 3 first-round picks, 2 pick swaps. Ochai Agbaji was just drafted in the first round when they dealt him. Colin Sexton and Lauri Markkanen. This is the Donovan Mitchell package. Right away, what are your thoughts from, I guess let's go with the Cavs perspective, or, whichever one.
I'll start with the Cavs because I think you gave up Lauri Markkanen, who ended up becoming an all-star, but he really just didn't seem to be blossoming in Cleveland. And I don't think, I think it was a product of the situation. I don't think it was that he was a bad player, because at the same time, at the Bulls, he kind of was like an Andrew Wiggins situation. The Bulls were like, this is the year Lauri Markkanen's going to break out. Like, oh, we've seen the flat, you know what I mean? When it was like the Wiggins is always 1 year away thing, the meme that kind of went along for a while. That was kind of with Lauri. And I just think with Utah, he just kind of was like, all right, bro, go for it. Because I feel like on the Bulls, he was never really the focal point. On the Cavs, he definitely wasn't the focal point. And so I just think it kind of let him unleash. It'll be interesting to see if he can, sustain it over long periods of time. Like, not saying that last season was a fluke because he played good the whole season, but it'll be interesting to see if it like carries over and he's still kind of on that all-star level this year. So I think that's interesting. Sexton, I think, still has a lot of potential as like a bench mob kind of guy. I don't think he's I don't think he's gonna be like an all-star guard or anything. No.
He can maybe be like a solid starter, but I don't think there's.
And then Agbaji, I think, is going to be a solid role player, but I think that's kind of his ceiling. And then obviously there's a lot of picks there, but it's funny because looking at those picks, you're like, that's really not that bad when you look at the Rudy Gobert picks, especially considering Donovan Mitchell is known as a playoff. Donovan Mitchell elevates in the playoffs usually, and Rudy Gobert is one of those guys that seems to get exposed in the playoffs. So I think. You're not only trading to get better in the regular season, you're trading to do better in the playoffs. So I think I like that from the Cavs perspective. And even though they gave up a lot, if you took those pieces and threw them on the Cavs, I don't think they're as good as they were last year.
No,
even though individually, I think they're all really good pieces. I think it's a very, very good trade for both sides.
The Cavs needed that number one scorer guy. Like Darius Garland's really good. I don't think he's that number one scorer. He's an all-star type player. He's an incredible playmaker. But I think having Donovan Mitchell as that one option is big for them. Mm-hmm. He did struggle in the playoffs this past year, but I don't think that was quite as much Donovan Mitchell's fault as it was the team had some flaws that were really exposed.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, I love the Donovan Mitchell trade when it happened for the Cavs. I still really like it.
Oh, absolutely.
The big thing is going to be keeping Donovan Mitchell because his contract expires not next or this upcoming offseason, but the one afterwards, I believe. Let me take a look at his contract real quick. Because I know there's people concerned about him potentially leaving. Yeah, so he's got this season, next one, and then a player option where he'll be 29 years old. He's only supposed to make 37 mil in that player option. There's no chance he accepts that because he's going to make like 60 mil probably at that point. So
man, that's Jaylen Brown money.
Way more than Jaylen Brown at that point. But yeah, so Donovan Mitchell, if you can keep him, it's a home run of a trade. I already think it kind of is because you've got Garland, who's an all-star caliber player, even though he didn't make the team this past year, I think he is of that type of player. Donovan Mitchell, who's not just an all-star, but an all-NBA caliber player. Mobley, I'm super high on Evan Mobley. I think he just finished top 3 in DPOY voting. I think he could be an all-star this season if he takes a bit of an offensive jump and is again playing DPOY defense. Jared Allen's really good, although there's rumors that they might be looking to move on from Jared Allen as like their center and trade him somehow and move Mobley to that full-time 5, which maybe ends up working. But yeah, the Cavs had some problems last year. I think they did a good job of addressing some of their depth issues with like George Niang, Max Strus. I think they could be better this upcoming season. So yeah, I mean, I still really like the Donovan Mitchell trade for the Cavaliers because they were really good this past year. Yes, they lost in the first round, but the good thing for them is that Donovan Mitchell's still young.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. If it's the timeline, because they're all like their whole team's, I don't know. Donovan's what, 25, 26?
I think he's 20. He just turned 27, or this is going to be his age 27 season. I don't know if he's turned 27. Yeah, he turns 27 in like a month.
But for that being the oldest player of your core, right? Because, Jared Allen's right around that age too. And then, Darius Garland's a few years younger. Evan Mobley's way younger. So I just think if it's the timeline, whereas like with the Rudy Gobert thing, you kind of have Towns, who's been in the league for a bit. Anthony Edwards is really young, and then Gobert's, a little bit up there in age in comparison to some of these.
It's a bit wonky over there, where it feels like everyone here is on kind of the same timeline.
Yeah,
and also like the reason I like the Donovan Mitchell trade way better, even though both teams lost in the first round, is because with the Gobert trade, it feels like a clunky fit where you're going to have to trade maybe Karl-Anthony Towns to make that work. The Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland backcourt seems to work really well.
Absolutely, especially with how good of a defense you have at the basket with Mobley and Allen.
Yeah, having those two bigs down low, like their defense was amazing. Their offense was kind of the issue at times. Like defensively, they were great because you have Evan Mobley, who's one of the better defenders in the league. You've got Jared Allen down there. Like I think if you get more consistent offensive play from Mobley and a number of other role players on your roster, I think the Cavs could be championship contenders not too long from now.
Absolutely.
I think it's a bit of a murkier path for the Timberwolves to get there, in my opinion. I do think they could, but it might take like a cat trade or something like that. So yeah, I mean, for the Jazz, you got Lauri Markkanen, you got a bunch of first-round picks. If Donovan Mitchell ends up leaving, like that 2029 first-round pick, or like that 2027 pick, the 2026 pick swap, like those could be incredibly valuable, especially if the Jazz are on the timeline that I think they are, where I wouldn't be surprised if they're being somewhat competitive not far from now. Like, I think, again, between these two trades, the Jazz had a home run of an offseason, like A+ grades all around for them. I love both these deals. Mm-hmm. For the Cavaliers, I like it quite a bit, again, because they're all young and on the timeline. I do worry a little bit about Donovan Mitchell not extending, but I think they've still got a couple more years, so I'm not super worried about that at the moment. So I think I'll probably go with like a B+ or like an A- for the Cavs on this trade, because I think they're really good. I think they're going to be really good continuously for the next couple of years. They're young, and I'm a big believer in Evan Mobley, so I do think they'll be championship contenders soon. And in my opinion, they'll probably convince Donovan Mitchell to stay, but because it's not a guarantee thing, I won't go higher than like an A-, B+ kind of range.
I'm probably sticking with the A simply because of the point I made earlier that if you take all those guys that they, had on the roster and you take Donovan Mitchell off, they're not as good as they were last year. And the ceiling just isn't even nearly as close as it is. The floor might be kind of the same, but I think it raises your ceiling and you didn't really compromise your future in any kind of way because literally your roster is the future. So I don't know. I'm still going to give it an A. I think even if he doesn't extend, you still had 2 or 3 years of Donovan Mitchell in his prime. I still think that's a very fair package for that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna go A for both sides.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I agree with you. I definitely not lower than like a B plus. If you went any lower than that, I think you were kind of crazy. And you're just kind of salty they lost the first round when this was a trade for the long term. It wasn't like a 1 year rental type of trade.
Yeah, it's a trade that when you have a young star player like Donovan Mitchell, who's one of the best shooting guards in the league, like you're banking on the long-term potential of Evan Mobley, Darius Garland. This was never a season where they were going to be championship contenders. They were always going to be pretty good, but championship contention seemed like it was a year or two away because it's a really young squad. And I think guys are going to continue to progress. I like the offseason moves that they made. Yes, they did give up a ton of capital, and maybe that ends up biting them in the end, but we'll see. So those are the Jazz trades. Next one we're going to move into is the Anthony Davis trade that happened in the 2019 offseason, heading into the 2020 season where they ended up winning the championship. The Lakers gave up Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart, Brandon Ingram, the 4th overall pick, which would end up becoming DeAndre Hunter. Obviously, that pick was traded to the Hawks later. 2022 first-round pick, which became Dyson Daniels. A 2023 pick swap, which did not end up conveying because the Lakers were better than the Pelicans, obviously. A 2024 first-round pick, and it also involved the Lakers signing Isaac Bonga, Jamario Jones, Mo Wagner, a 2022 second-round pick, which became Kennedy Chandler, over to the Washington Wizards. There was a lot going on, but the crux of it really is Lonzo, Hart, Ingram, that 4th overall pick, a 2022 first, a 2023 pick swap, and a 2024 first in exchange for Anthony Davis. I mean, right off the bat, the Lakers, they won a championship is kind of the way I look at this deal. They gave up a lot, obviously, between Lonzo, get well soon to him. Brandon Ingram is great. Josh Hart is a really solid role player. But they won a championship. I remember when, even after they won the title, like a couple years later, people were like, "Oh, the Lakers, did they lose that trade?" In my opinion,
nah, bro, you won a title, don't matter. You could have thrown 10
it doesn't matter.
picks in there. You won a title, it does not matter.
The reason we play the sport is for titles. Like, regardless of what you give up, if you win a championship, in my opinion, you are a winner of the trade. Now, if the other team goes on to win like 3 titles, you might not be the biggest winner of the trade, but in that scenario, it's a win-win deal, in my opinion. The Lakers are automatically winners in this deal because they won a title. So, like, that to me, if you win a title because of a deal, you get an amazing grade from me.
Something that's interesting, too, is like AD still in the Lakers. I know Ingram's still in the Pels, but the rest of those guys, like Lonzo's hasn't played, and he's been on the Bulls for a little bit now. Josh Hart's kind of been all over the place. And like those were the other 2 big guys. Dyson Daniels, he kind of had some hype, but he really wasn't anything too crazy last year. He's a second-year player. And then DeAndre Hunter's on the Hawks, so he's not even in the organization. So I just think it's really interesting that even if someone were to argue the Lakers lost that trade, like sure, Ingram's like a pretty close to an all-star player every year. Like
I would say he's of that caliber.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Even if he doesn't make the team, he's an all-star type of player.
Yeah.
But the thing that's funny is AD is still arguably the best or second best player, depending on how LeBron's doing / how many rims he's seeing. Player on the Lakers, like a couple years after they won a freaking title, he's still like one of their best players.
Yeah.
So I just think it's really funny that anyone would consider that an L. At the time, I do think it was a great trade for the Pelicans. It was about time they moved on from AD. And that's a freaking haul, man. Like, I know, like, a lot of those guys aren't with the team anymore, but then they also received other assets, from those deals, it led to Zion joining the team eventually. So I would probably give the Lakers, like you said, I think anything lower than A, in my opinion, is stupid because they won a title and AD's still there playing, 3 years later. So I don't see how anyone would give them less than A. And then the Pels, I would probably give them an A too, because I don't think you're getting any better package than that. You still have Brandon Ingram, who's your second best player. Best if Zion decides to
Zion's not out there.
And then you got tons of other great talent. So
I think it's a pretty good deal. It definitely helped that Zion came into the fold that same offseason. That was a wild one because it's like Anthony Davis is like, I want to trade, and then they get the first overall pick in a lottery that they weren't like supposed to win.
Yeah.
So it was a lot going on there. I think they did a pretty good job. Although, the fact that like they lost Lonzo, it felt like they kind of I don't know, it felt like they lost Lonzo and they kind of panicked. They lost Josh Hart, obviously, who's still a really good role player. Ingram's great. I don't know. I feel like they kind of mismanaged a little bit of the talent that they got.
But I don't think that changes the trade, though. Like the trade itself, like what they got, Like
that's fair. I think
it
does change it a little bit for me, but it's not. I mean, I'm not saying it's anything significant. I still think this was a great haul for Anthony Davis, especially something that I'm taking into consideration is that he like publicly asked out and was wearing a shirt that said like "That's all, folks" on the last game of the regular season. Like,
dude said it was just a coincidence. That's a crazy
lie. Yeah, sure, AD. But like,
say, buddy.
I'm not going to hold that against the Pelicans. The fact that he publicly requested the trade, there's nothing they could do in that scenario, and I still think they got a lot for him. So yeah, I mean, the Lakers, in my opinion, get an A+ because they won a championship. That 2024 first round pick doesn't look like it's going to be good. Maybe if they have some injuries, it could end up being solid. And I mean, the Pelicans could still get a great player from it. I like Dyson Daniels' game. Maybe he ends up becoming something special. So yeah, I think I'll go with like an A+ for the Lakers because again they won a title, and for the Pelicans I'll go with like an A-. I think they did get Brandon Ingram. Yeah, we'll see what ends up happening with Dyson Daniels and that 2024 first round pick, whoever they get from that. I think they still have that first round pick. I don't know if they've traded it or not at this point, but yeah, I mean, it's a solid haul for a player who vehemently did not want to be in your organization anymore, and he made it very well known that hey, the Lakers are where I want to go. So I'm taking that into account as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think an A- is totally fair. If you had said C or something, I would have been probably like.
No, I still think the Pelicans did like a really solid job. I mean, Ingram's an all-star caliber player. Like he's really good, and getting just getting a player of that caliber in return for Anthony Davis is a big win in of itself. Plus, you got some draft capital and you got some young players, even if they didn't end up working out, which is still kind of rough in my opinion, which takes it down a little bit. But again, Dyson Daniels, we'll see what happens with him. Still a first-round pick next year too. So,
yeah. So we're gonna move on to the Harden trade. So this is kind of all over the place. We have a lot going on here.
Yeah, this is the Harden to Brooklyn trade from Houston. I realized I forgot to write down the details for him going to Philly, which wasn't that just like him swap for Ben Simmons with like a few first round picks? Wasn't that like the full deal?
Yeah, which the pick turned into whoever they drafted this year, so we don't even know, what's going on with that. And then I think they get one more of our first. It's just 2 firsts and Ben, pretty much. And I think Seth and Drummond.
I think was it Dariq Whitehead who they got with that pick? No, because it would have been later. It might have been Noah Clowney. I'll take a look. You go ahead.
Whoever they got in the 20s.
You can go ahead and read off the details of the deal.
Yeah, and then not to mention the Sixers also got Paul Millsap, Sixers legend, in that trade.
Oh, they did? Damn! Shout out to
Sixers legend. It was Harden and Millsap, man. Remember, it was the Paul Millsap trade.
I do remember this. Shout out to him.
So the other trade, we have Nets get Harden, Cavs get Jarrett Allen, which I think is a very underrated aspect of this trade. And they got Taurean Prince, who I used at Hoop Squared the other day, and that was a good answer.
Right answer.
Because a lot of people don't remember that. Rockets got Victor Oladipo, Rodions Kurucs, totally forgot about him. Dante Exum, who's back in the league now.
Yeah, now over in Dallas.
Yep. 4 firsts. One of them has conveyed to Tari Eason, which is looking like a great pick. He's looking like an awesome player. And then 4 unprotected swaps. Pacers, and then in that deal, Pacers also got LeVert and a 2023 second-round pick, which must not have been anyone too crazy because we don't got a name for it.
Yeah, I didn't see the name for it.
That's
on the website that I was looking at.
When that player ends up becoming the next Jokic, people will look back at it and say, "You didn't even put his name in the video, bro."
I think it might have been Julian Strother,
whoever that is.
Might have been. You don't get it.
But I think.
I think it was Jalen Pickett who they traded to the Nuggets. So
okay,
there we go.
But I think what's really interesting about this trade is the Cavs getting Jarrett Allen as a part of that core. He ended up becoming an all-star. I think the next season he became an all-star.
He was an all-star. Yeah, he was an all-star in 2020. He was a 2022 all-star. Yeah,
last year. That following season, and then the Nets. It's interesting because we know that big 3 or big 4 they had didn't really work out. Was it 4 or 3? What am I naming? How many players did they have?
Big 4 if you include DeAndre Jordan. Otherwise, big 3.
So big 3 with Kyrie, Harden, and Durant. I don't know why I thought there was a 4th player in there. I'm like, who is their 4th guy? No,
Spencer Dinwiddie.
Just the 3 of them, and DeAndre Jordan, who they signed because they were friends.
Yeah, that offseason they got on the same night they got DeAndre Jordan, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant, the big 3 over there.
But I do think it's funny that the Nets did trade away LeVert and Allen, who at the time, LeVert at the time was considered one of their good young players, and same with Jarrett Allen. And people were like, it would have been nice to keep 1 or 2 of them to add them to the mix with these 3 superstar players. And I mean, Levert's been a pretty good bench player or like a 6-man type of player for a little bit now. And, like we said, Allen's been pretty good. Then you got Victor Oladipo and his revenge tour attempt, which, unfortunately hasn't been going too well. And then the rest of the players the Rockets got are out of the league. So,
hey, Dante Exum, but he's a Maverick. Don't forget this.
He is now back.
He was out of the league.
Yeah.
Show some respect, Ryan.
And there's still a lot of picks for the Rockets here, which is nice because the Rockets had a pretty gutted,
they've got a billion. They've got a billion picks. Yeah. Like that's the
before
real
this trade though. They didn't have like anything, man. So
yeah, they had some assets, but they did give up. We'll talk about this in a little bit when we talk about the Russell Westbrook Chris Paul trade, where they lost some draft capital. They got some of it back from this deal, which was big. But yeah, I mean, like we said, 4 first-round picks, 4 unprotected pick swaps. Like the Rockets pretty much control the Nets' draft future for the next like 8 years, pretty much. Like it's kind of crazy. So, yeah, I mean. There's 4 teams, I guess, to grade here. The Pacers automatically get a pretty good grade from me because, I mean, they just got, like, Victor Oladipo was not very good at that point. He was dealing with injuries. I think I got Caris LeVert, who was solid for them. They ended up trading him later. Like, I think they get a fine grade. I'll give them, like, a B+ or something like that. I mean, they got involved when there was no reason for them to really get involved in that. The Cavs, for me, get an A+, probably. Like, yeah, I'll give them an A+. They didn't have to be involved in this whatsoever. And they got Jared Allen, who gave them an all-star season. And even if they end up trading him, like they got an all-star season out of him and he's still really, really good. So they'll probably get some assets for him back. And like there was no reason for them to get involved other than they were like willing to take on the money and able to like help make this trade. Like they just were able to help facilitate it. Mm-hmm. So I mean, they get a great grade. So yeah, for me, those are kind of the 2 outside teams before we really dive more into the Nets and the Rockets in particular, who are obviously like the big players in this trade.
And I still think it was funny because this was all over Twitter and the internet back then, but everyone was so confused why the Rockets preferred some of those picks, especially like a Bucks pick, for example, which isn't too great, versus taking on Jared Allen when they didn't have any. That was before they had Şengün, so they didn't have any young big men on the roster, or even LeVert, who at the time would have been like, I feel like a better player to squeeze into that rotation than, the corpse of Oladipo and Dante Exum. But I don't know. What do you think about that? Like, do you still think the Rockets should have opted to try to get Allen and LeVert and then maybe taken 1 or 2 less of those picks? Or what do you think after, a couple years?
I don't know. It's tough to say because, again, Allen's really good, but I like Şengün a lot. So
but adding Allen to that team, bro, that'd be a nice addition. I feel like
it would be nice. It would be nice to have that rim protection. You're not wrong. I mean, again, he was an all-star. Although part of that probably was playing alongside like Darius Garland, who's again a great playmaker, like we talked about earlier in the show. So yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, it did kind of keep them open to like seeing what they did rather than like locking them into Jared Allen, who was due money at that point. So I guess. In the end, that helped them like have this off season where they got like Fred VanVleet and Dillon Brooks. So I guess we'll have to see how that goes.
I'd still take Jared Allen, but I know your point.
Yeah, it helped them remain flexible, and then, we'll see what ends up happening. So I don't know. I'm kind of neutral on it. I hated it when it happened, but I think I'm like, kind of chilled out on it a little bit.
I was gonna say we're not raging as much at them as we did at the time.
Yeah, at that point, I was like, why are the Cavs just getting Jared Allen when the Rockets could just grab him and they need a young big? Like, I didn't understand that. I still think it would have been nice for them to get Jared Allen, but again, like we talked about, it gave them a little bit of flexibility and it did allow them to more outright tank and get the players that they have now. And if those guys turn into, stars in this league, or if the Rockets end up winning a championship or building something out of this young core, then in the end, like we talked about, if you win a championship, the trade that you made was probably the right decision. So I think it's fine. Like, back then, like we were talking about, like everybody was freaking out, like, why don't they go get Jared Allen? But getting this draft capital, I think, was, big for them because, again, they've already gotten Tari Eason from their 2022 pick, and he's looked really good in his rookie season. I think he's going to have a good sophomore year. 2024 could be an interesting pick from the Brooklyn Nets because right now they're kind of in that middle ground where they've got some talent with Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Nick Claxton, but it's nothing concrete yet. Like, I'm not sure if they're going to be a playoff team. Same thing with 2026. Yeah, that Bucks 2022 pick ended up becoming Marjon Beauchamp, I believe. I think he got traded back to them somehow, or there was like some movement with that pick.
Okay,
I believe, or I might be misremembering, but the pick didn't end up becoming anything too crazy. I don't have it written down here. 4 unprotected first-round pick swaps too. Like, say the Rockets are competing for a championship in 2025, and then as they're still going through this process, like having that pick swap is also huge. I think the Rockets did a pretty good job getting a haul for James Harden. I mean, just getting this much draft capital is incredible. Again, they control the Brooklyn Nets from now in 2020, heading into the 2024 draft. They have a 2024 pick swap in 2025, 2026 pick swap in 2027. Like, they have all these years still ahead as they're trying to grow and become a more competitive team, which I think is big for them, especially with the new CBA, where having a bunch of guys that are going to be making a lot of money like the Rockets might hinders your ability to build a team. Having those draft picks to bring in new young talent could be huge for them. So I'm going to give the Rockets, I think I'm going to go with an A here or a B plus. I think I'll go with an A-, just because I don't want to give too many straight up A's, A pluses out. Mainly because we don't know what a lot of those picks are going to turn into. I think that's kind of my main thing, is where, we know that Tari Eason's probably going to be pretty good, but we don't know what any of those other draft picks turn into. Maybe it doesn't end up becoming anything too crazy, and it's like, that wasn't the best trade in the end. So if they hit on those picks, it's a home run of a trade. But until then, I'm going to give it just an A- for now, because I do like the prospect of having all this draft capital at your disposal.
Yeah, I'll probably go B plus, simply because if I remember correctly, the Cavs owned that Bucks 22 pick, and they then traded that to the like that pick was from them to get Jared Allen. I'd still taken Jared Allen over that lousy pick. So because of that, I'm giving them a B plus. But like you said, man, they got a pretty good haul. They got off Harden's money. They got a lot of draft capital coming up, and Tari Eason's already looking like a really solid player. I'm not saying that Tari Eason's gonna, equate to James Harden on your roster. You know what I mean, talent wise. But there's still so much potential and a lot of room to grow. So I'm going B plus as well. And then I think Cavs, like you said, I'm going A plus plus plus. They gave up some lousy first round pick for Jared Allen, who became an all-star. Pacers, same thing, like you said, just for getting involved and being there. B plus.
Just getting in there for no reason. Like, I like that.
Yeah. And then the Nets, though, I don't know what I'm personally. I think I'm going to give the Nets a C- on this one, because I still think that they were a better team building around Kyrie and KD with really solid depth. I think that was more of the answer. And I think we're starting to see that might be, unless you have and it's going to be interesting to see with the Suns, because the Suns are kind of doing this thing where they get 3 superstar level players and then just have no depth around them. Like, they did sign a lot of people, but you know what I mean? Not a lot of top level depth. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how it works out for them. But I mean, we're going to get to this trade later, but when the Lakers, traded Westbrook and they traded all their depth away just to add a third star to the mix, I think we're just starting to see a trend where it doesn't always work out as well as teams think it is. And I still would really like to have seen that team with Kyrie, KD, Allen, LeVert, and, the rest of their, really solid roster. Because I remember when KD was out that year and Kyrie was playing, that team looked really solid,
Yeah.
So
they ended up going to the bubble and stuff. See, the reason I don't know is kind of similar, but also different. Like, to me, I still think if KD, Kyrie, and Harden had been able to all stay healthy, this Nets team probably wins a championship that year in 2021.
Yeah,
I mean, they took the Bucks 7 without Kyrie or Harden really playing much. So I don't know. I think it might have been the right move. And again, if you win a championship, all sins are forgiven. Obviously, they didn't do so, and injuries derailed them. But I guess, like you said, trading for a third star is kind of banking on you need these stars to be available. So I don't know. It's really tough for me to say, because I do think Harden, when he was playing for them, he was phenomenal, and he was worth giving up a bunch of assets, but it didn't equate to anything. And now you're kind of stuck in this hole. So it's weird. If they had won, or if they had just stayed healthy, it would have worked out. And I don't know whether to penalize the Nets because he didn't stay healthy, or give them a bit of a pass because it wasn't really their fault that happened. So I think I'm going to go C-, I think, or D+.
Dang, you gave a harsher grade than I did. I thought you were going to give them a better grade by the way you were talking about it.
I mean, I really don't know. I mean, I guess I'll give 2 different grades. If I'm talking straight up from a perspective of the results that they got, this trade sucked because, they it didn't work out. like if we're talking straight up results, but a lot of that result based, or a lot of those results were based on things that were out of their control with the Harden injuries. In terms of just trading for James Harden, adding him to this team, which made the Nets really, really, really good. And I think they probably would have won a championship if they stayed healthy. In terms of that, I think this was like a B plus, A minus type of grade, because, it's not guaranteed they would have won the title. There's still a chance that they flamed out, but they looked really good. Like this team was of championship caliber and were looking amazing when all three were on the court. They were just never on the court together. So it's tough for me to really say completely. Like, I guess between those two grades, it averages out to like a C-ish or like a C plus. So I guess I'll go with something like that. I don't know. This one to me is one of the hardest grades by far, or hardest trades to by far grade, like because of that what if, and we don't know what a lot of those picks are going to turn into. So
kind of the same point. We don't have to talk about it very long, but like for the Sixers Nets perspective, like even though the Sixers, gave up, Simmons, who apparently is completely healthy and is back to his full form. Yeah, we'll see about that. Well,
I'm interested. I'm bought in. I'm locked
peaked.
In.
My interest is peaked.
You're just peaked.
However, even if, like, let's say the Sixers end up trading Harden away, you still trade a guy that was not even playing for you and 2 first-round picks and then just 2 role players for 2 years of a championship window that includes Harden with Embiid. You know what I mean? Like, even if it doesn't work out, there's no way you can grade the move like an F. Like, it makes that wouldn't make any sense to me.
Like, even if it doesn't work, like, it might still have been the right move.
Absolutely. It gave you the best chance. You had a better chance with Harden than you did with Ben and Seth and Drummond. I mean, that's obvious.
And Ben Simmons refused to play too, so like that, gives you problems. But yeah, so I don't know, kind of around, I guess maybe like a C plus ish for the Nets. It's just so hard to say. Again, if they were all able to stay healthy, this probably ends up being like an A plus type of trade, because I think they were competing for a championship if they stayed healthy. But yeah, that's one of the weirder ones to talk about looking back on it
real quick, because I know you're super pumped about the next one, but let's get like a couple small ones out the way real quick.
Oh yeah, and let's go through a few more before because we just dove deep into that one, I feel like. So yeah, we can do a couple of the smaller ones. Which one do you want to go do next?
We can go ahead and do DeMar DeRozan to the Bulls, which is honestly really anticlimactic, but I just think it's interesting just because even though DeMar DeRozan isn't like one of these A-list stars we've been talking about, he's still like a really solid player. And it's just so funny. I just was looking back at this package and I kind of wanted to talk about it. So the Bulls got DeMar, who they then extended, and he ended up becoming an all-star with them.
All-NBA player too.
Yep. And the Spurs got Al-Farouq Amino, Thaddeus Young, a 2020 second that they traded away, and then they have the Bulls 2025 first. I have no idea if there's protections on that or not. And then a 2025 second. And I just think it's so funny that, like, looking at that package for a player of DeMar DeRozan's caliber, you know what I mean? I don't know. I just think it's really interesting.
Yeah, sorry, real quick. I'm checking to see if that pick is protected. I'm going on Basketball Reference.
Yeah, you're good.
For those of you that didn't know, we're not sponsored by Basketball Reference, but the website's dope. You can take a look at Basketball Reference and you can find a player, like all their transactions that they're included in. The 2025 first round pick, it's conditional, it says. So I'm guessing but it typically says protected. So I don't know. Let me see if I can find that again. But yeah, I mean, DeMar DeRozan, again, he became an All-NBA player with Chicago. I think it's another example of, like, they didn't have to give up too much to make this happen, and I think it was the right move. It hasn't worked out for them, and part of that might be because of, like, the Lonzo Ball injury. The Bulls in the first half of the season before Lonzo got hurt looked amazing. They were the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. Lonzo gets hurt, the team kind of falls apart, and now we're kind of just waiting on a rebuild. So, and I mean, there's still a chance, like, ultimately, I think this trade, regardless, is going to become a win for the Bulls because I expect them to get more for DeMar DeRozan than they gave up. I don't think they're going to get like a package like that for a player. If they trade DeMar DeRozan, say at this deadline, I mean, if they lose him for nothing, it's kind of a wash. But they did get 2 good seasons out of him, and unless that 2025 first round pick, which I'm still trying to find the protections on, if that is it's
so protected that you can't even find it.
Yeah, for real. Like, I'm trying to find this. No, this is just a bad article. I mean, in the Spurs like favor. Okay, so let's see. It says it says it's was conditional because they're waiting on the details of the Vucevic trade because that has like protections on it. Okay, so that pick is like, so that pick was kind of up in the air. I don't know if it's updated now because the Vucevic trade included protections on their picks. So because they got the pick this year, because they got the pick this year, the Magic, I'm guessing that pick will just be straight up 2025. So I don't know if it has any protections on or not. Regardless, like, I mean, I think it's a good haul for the Spurs to get for DeMar DeRozan, who was a sign and trade. Like, they were going to kind of get rid of him anyways. And you just get a first round pick. Of course, you know, you would have liked better value for DeMar DeRozan, who became an all NBA player. But at that point, he was kind of just like a fringe all-star guy. He was really good, but he wasn't, you know, as good as he is over there in Chicago. And
I feel like he was kind of limited by the system the Spurs ran. Not that there's anything wrong with what the Spurs are doing, but I feel like he was kind of able to play more like himself in Chicago.
They had him running he was doing a lot of ball handling. I think he averaged like 7 assists one season, I think, with the Spurs. Like, he was doing a lot of playmaking for them, which was kind of cool to see DeMar DeRozan in that role. He averaged, for the Spurs in 2021, he averaged 6.9 assists.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah,
now he's playing power forward for the Bulls.
And now he's playing like small forward, power forward over there for them. So, yeah, I mean, it was cool to see DeMar DeRozan. Actually, Ryan, in that season, he did play power forward. So show some respect to DeMar DeRozan, according to Basketball Reference. But yeah, it's, you know, another one where it's hard to talk about fully because I do think the Bulls made the right decision bringing DeMar. I mean, he's been really good for them. I do think they should trade him away and blow it up. They should have done it.
We should have done this trade tree immediately.
Yeah, they should have done it earlier, in my opinion. Like, I think they probably could have done it last deadline. He's expiring, which is a bit concerning because the value might go down with DeMar. But if he has a really good season again, I think they could still get good value out of him. He's been good. And ultimately, I don't think it was their fault that Lonzo Ball, has been dealing with the injuries and stuff like that. They were looking like a 1 seed out there. So I'm going to give the Bulls I'll give them a B+ for this deal. I think it was a perfectly fine one, unless, maybe that 2025 first, which could be valuable. I mean, if the Bulls do blow it up, that pick could be interesting. So maybe that ends up being rough, but you did get like a couple all NBA caliber years out of DeMar DeRozan. So
yeah, man.
Spurs for me, real quick. I'll give him an A- because they were trying to get rid of him anyways. And, they just got some value.
Yeah, the Spurs are another one where it was kind of weird to me that they kept him for so long because we kind of knew the direction they were going in. So it was one of those. Oh, you were faded for a second there.
Yeah, I was. I think I got too close to the webcam. It was freaking out. Yeah, mine's better.
It's kind of like what you're saying, man. They were probably going to lose him for nothing anyway, so it was cool that they got something. I just think it's so funny to see some of these hauls for like really good players, and they get like crazy packages, and then you look at this package for DeMar DeRozan, and you're just like, Aminu, Thad Young, and like a 2025 pick. I don't know. I just think it was fun. That's why I included it, just because I thought the package was kind of interesting in that how much better he was on the Bulls, which I think makes the package for the Spurs. Like at the time, everyone was like, "Oh, that's probably pretty chill for a sign and trade package." And then we're like, DeMar, the guy that keeps hitting these game winners every night and is all NBA and was like top 5 in MVP for a lot of the season.
Yeah, hit game winners on like back-to-back nights.
That was a crazy night, man. When he did that back-to-back, was it
I'm pretty sure
was it the Wizards and Pacers or something like that?
I think so, and I think it was like December 31st and January 1st, if I remember right. It was like he hit him on back-to-back nights in like different years. Like,
that's pretty nuts.
Great. I think it was something like that. So
shout out DeMar,
weird deal. Shout out DeMar. Hopefully he gets to go play somewhere soon because I just dropped a video on my channel talking about like a breakout player for every team. And my pick for the Bulls is Patrick Williams. Bro, I've been watching like Patrick Williams clips recently. I think he's going to be so good if the Bulls actually give him a chance.
Yeah,
I'm so sick of him being. He's been relegated to like a third, fourth option. Yes, make Patrick Williams just at the deadline. Trade everyone away. Let Patrick Williams just go crazy. I'm telling you, that'd be way more fun than just trying this thing again. Do you want to move now to the Westbrook trade?
Sure.
Okay, so this one's the Lakers-Westbrook trade. The Lakers get Russell Westbrook, 2024, and a 2028 second-round pick. The Wizards get Kyle Kuzma, Montrezl Harrell, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, a 2021 first-round pick, which ended up becoming Isaiah Jackson for the Wizards, who they traded to Indiana on draft night. Also a caveat with this trade is that it happened on draft night, and like an hour beforehand, we got a report that it seemed like they were going to be trading kind of this exact same package in exchange for it was Buddy Hield and I think it just was Buddy Hield, actually. I think it was just Buddy Hield for this deal. Let me check. No, I don't think it was.
I think it had to be Harrison Barnes, right, to make the money work.
It might have been. I'll look at it again.
Here, I'll let you look into it, and I'll tell you my thoughts real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
But I just think this is a prime example of the Lakers wanted to buy in on LeBron and AD and, get this short championship window. And, Russ had just had a really good season with the Wizards, and he had a stretch, I think, it was probably like the middle to end of the season where he just looked unstoppable. And he looked like
at the end of the year, he like willed the Wizards to the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. And he looked pretty good in the playoffs. I think they played Philly that year, right? In the first round.
Yes, they played y'all.
Yep, and he, gave him a fighting chance. So I just think it was kind of an interesting move by the Lakers. I think a lot of people actually liked it at the time. Like they were just like, okay, yeah, I see that, and I rock with it. But then it immediately turned out to be pretty awful, and everyone I think now would have graded this trade an F. Westbrook just did not work out. It's unfortunate. It's not that he's a bad player, just did not work. And then you have, Kuzma became a 20-point per game scorer with the Wizards. Montrez kind of forgot how to play basketball, so that was fine. But then KCP won a championship with the Nuggets, and then Isaiah Jackson ended up becoming a pretty solid player. So I just think you kind of went for quantity, or you went for quality over quantity in a way, but somehow you still didn't get quality, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I see what you're going for. I mean, they went with quantity of stars rather than quality of
depth,
overall team.
Yeah.
So let's see. Yeah, it looked like the so Woj's tweet said with Harrell opting in, the Lakers are able to move toward completing a deal to acquire Kingsguard, Buddy Hield for 4, Kyle Kuzma, and Montrezl Harrell. So it seems like
KCP was going to stay.
It seems like KCP was not going to be involved in the deal. So which makes sense because I was going to say like that's a lot for just Buddy Hield. Mm-hmm. And KCP, like you said, was really good. He was part of a championship team over there in the Nuggets, which, by the way, the Wizards trade, which they traded KCP and Ish Smith, I believe it was, for Monte Morris and Will Barton. That trade sucked. That was bad. Like, I don't know what they were doing. Will Barton hardly played most of the season because he was bad. Monte Morris was all right at times, but he's just not a starting point guard in the NBA. Like, he's a good bench guard, but he's not a long-term starter.
Especially for like a team like the Wizards, man. I don't really see the purpose of that for him on their roster.
No, I don't know. I don't know what they were doing there. I hated that trade when it happened. Hate it even more now, obviously. But yeah, I mean, as a big Russell Westbrook fan, a Thunder fan, I was really hopeful for this. I was like, oh, Russ has a chance to compete for a ring alongside LeBron and AD. And I like the idea of adding another ball handler when LeBron was injured or when he wasn't playing. It obviously did not work out whatsoever. It also didn't help that they made their roster as old as possible. They just got like all these old veterans, which was partially because they were paying Russ, LeBron, and Anthony Davis like $1 billion each. So, yeah, it put him in a bad spot. Buddy Hield probably would have worked better. And you keep Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, too. You could have run a lineup out there with, like, LeBron running your one, like he did a lot in the championship run. Shooters. Yeah, you got KCP, Buddy Hield out there, Anthony Davis at, like, the 4, the 5. I don't remember exactly who was on that roster. Their offseason probably would have changed a lot because, they didn't have Russ's contract on the books.
Maybe kept Caruso.
They should have kept Caruso, man. But yeah, I mean, this trade, like, it wasn't good. Looking back on it, they should have went for the Buddy Hield route, probably. I will say the Lakers have recovered beautifully from that. They were able to
face, man. That's the only reason I don't think this trade gets an F, because they somehow were able to make a really nice comeback, and their roster might be just as good, if not better, with their current, in their current state than they would have been with that package if it had not happened.
They threw one of the biggest things for me is that they threw away a year pretty much. Like they punted a year of LeBron and Anthony Davis together, which sucks. So for me, I think this trade was bad. Like, I think it gets a D probably.
I'd give it a D as well.
Yeah, I think it's probably like it's not like an average. It's below average for sure. So for the Lakers, they don't get a great grade. For the Wizards, I don't even know what I give them for this trade. Like, Kuzma's been good. I think I'd give them like a B, maybe.
I think because they fumbled the bag on the KCP trade a little bit, I feel like.
Yeah. They also gave up that 2021 first. Like, Isaiah Jackson would have been fun over there. They just kind of gave that pick up, if I remember correctly. Like, they didn't even get really anything back for it.
I'll do some research real quick.
Yeah, I don't know. If you probably just go on Isaiah Jackson's basketball reference, you can probably find what that is. But yeah, I don't know. It wasn't a great haul for Russell Westbrook, who was just good, although he was making a ton of money. So I don't know. I'll give it like a B because Kuzma's good, and you did get some value back, I guess, for Russ. But then again, they gave up a couple of seconds. This trade kind of sucks from both sides. I just don't like this deal. I might give it a C for the Wizards. It's just whatever.
Wait, who am I looking up again? Oh, Isaiah Jackson.
Isaiah Jackson. I'll do C+ because Kuzma's good. Kuzma's good, and they brought him back, and they could still get value for Kuzma. So you know what? I will go back up to a B-. I'll stay there.
I rock with it. All right, who did Isaiah Jackson get traded for? Hold on.
I don't know who they trade that pick for.
Oh man, okay.
If I remember, it was like nothing in particular.
I'm looking.
Oh my god, I see exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, it's a big time deal.
I think it was
Aaron Holiday. I think they traded to the Pacers for Aaron Holiday. I believe that's what it was.
And Isaiah Todd.
Yeah.
That's an L, bro.
Yeah, it's an L.
Isaiah
Todd's over on the Grizzlies now.
You can see why I froze when I was reading the trade transaction.
Oh my god, yeah, no. If y'all are wondering why Ryan was having a hard time with it, like this is crazy. Like it's like a full-on paragraph.
I had to read a thesis statement in a 5-paragraph essay to find out.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like because it was a 5-team trade.
Yeah, look up Isaiah Jackson's Basketball Reference and look at his transaction page if you want to just get like, holy crap.
There is drafted by the Lakers in the first round on July 29th. There's August 6th, which is about a 3-page thesis statement. And then August 11th, he signed a multi-year contract. It's like just 3 transactions. It's a nice sandwich of the longest paragraph you'll ever read for a transaction report. So, yeah, that was a weird one. I think both teams kind of did in this one. The Lakers, fumbled the bag, especially with the context of them being able to get Buddy Hield and possibly retain Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. I think they did worse for sure, but the Wizards didn't do anything too special either.
I say let's talk about the Drew Holiday trade. Another trade that netted a championship.
Yeah. So Drew Holiday goes to the Milwaukee Bucks alongside Sam Merrill. It was a 4-team deal that included the Thunder and the Nuggets, as well as the Pelicans and the Bucks. Pelicans get Steven Adams. They didn't get Steven Adams out of this deal.
Yeah, they did. And they flipped him for Valanciunas.
Oh, never mind. For some reason, I was picturing Steven Adams on the Pelicans coming there from the Grizzlies. I swapped the two.
Yeah.
Pelicans get Steven Adams from OKC. They get Eric Bledsoe, 2 second-round picks, 2 first-round pick swaps from the Bucks, as well as 4 first-round picks. The Bucks get Drew Holiday and Sam Merrill. The Nuggets get RJ Hampton. The Thunder get George Hill, Zion Cheatham, Darius Miller, Kenrich Williams, a Nuggets first that ended up becoming Nick Smith Jr. Over there in the Hornets. I don't remember how that pick moved. The 2023 Pelicans second-round pick from the Wizards. Which ended up becoming Hunter Tyson, and a 2024 Pelican second-round pick. There's a lot of different things in here. Obviously, I mean, for the Nuggets, I'm going to just give them a C. Like RJ Hampton really wasn't good, but it doesn't seem like they gave up anything.
Bro, F.
I guess they did give a first-round pick in this deal. A Nuggets first. Yeah, that trade was not good for them. Not great. RJ Hampton was not good. He's out of the league at this point.
Magic fans hated RJ Hampton, man. There's not a ton of Magic fans, but it'd be so funny just going through Twitter and seeing like this very small cluster of people collectively just crapping on RJ Hampton on a nightly basis. And it was so funny. Like they had a crazy vendetta out for that man. They just did not like him.
Well, part of the problem was he went to summer league as like a 3rd or 4th year player and stunk. He was bad in summer league, which is not a good sign. But yeah, Nuggets, it's whatever. They got RJ Hampton, I guess. For us, I'll say that we were able to flip George Hill over to the Sixers, so we were able to get something for him. Kenrich Williams is a really solid role player for us, so I really like his addition. Yeah, he's still here. We signed him to a multi-year deal. Darius Miller gave us some fun minutes the season that he was here. I think this trade is fine for us. We gave up Steven Adams, which stunk, but again, it was kind of a rebuilding thing. I think it's a pretty solid trade for us. I'm going to give us a B, I guess.
Yeah.
I think that's fine. And obviously the Pelicans and the Bucks are the 2 big players in this. Bucks for me, I mean, you got Drew Holiday, you won a championship. You get like an A+ for me. Mm-hmm. So
at the time though, I don't think we would have rated an A.
Yeah, it was a lot to give up for Drew Holiday. I mean, if you just look at it in terms of assets, that's a ton to give up for Drew Holiday. Like 4 first-round picks and 2 first-round pick swaps, that is a ton.
And didn't Bledsoe and Giannis weren't they tight too? Or am I missing?
I don't remember.
I might be totally just making up some fan fiction between the two of them, but I thought they were friends. Maybe I'm confused. I don't know. Maybe I'm totally off base on this one, and that like Giannis is low-key sad they lost Bledsoe. I'm totally wrong.
Yeah, I don't remember what.
I'm about to look this up real quick. You keep going. You keep telling me your
time. Let me know when you find the timeline of Eric Bledsoe and Giannis's friendship.
Mm-hmm. Or they might have hated each other. I don't know, man.
For some reason, I feel like there might have been beef with Bledsoe and like someone on that team.
Tell me why I look up Giannis and Eric Bledsoe, and the first thing that comes up that people also ask is, does Giannis share a bed with his brothers?
Who is Googling that?
I don't
know. Anyways, Bucks get Drew Holiday. They won a championship, so for me, it's an A, or A plus, I guess. They did have to give up a lot of first round picks, and with the way the Bucks are going right now, those picks might be really valuable because I mean, if they keep Giannis, like the picks are not going to be the biggest deal. They did win a championship though, so I'll go A for right now. The Pelicans get Steven Adams, who they ended up flipping for Jonas Valanciunas, and in that deal, we were talking about that a little bit beforehand. They also got the pick that ended up being Trey Murphy. They traded down in that draft. The Grizzlies wanted Zaire Williams. The Pelicans end up with Trey Murphy, who I love as a player. He's amazing. I think he's got star potential if the Pelicans kind of just unleash him. If they ever trade, like say Brandon Ingram or Zion Williamson, and Trey Murphy becomes a starter, I think Trey Murphy could be a star in the making. So getting Steven Adams ended up being a huge win for the Pelicans because they were able to flip him in that deal. And they got a bunch of first round picks. I think the Pelicans and Bucks both get like A's, A pluses for this. I mean, you got all that value for Drew Holiday, who has been an all-star twice at this point in his career. I mean, he's been there once on the Bucks, so I think he was like a one-time all-star, and he was one of the best guard defenders in the league. It's not like he was a scrub or anything, but that's a lot of draft capital to get for Drew Holiday. So for me, these teams both get like A's, A pluses.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. It'll be interesting to see how these picks turn out. But like we said with the Lakers, man, if you win a championship, it don't matter, man. They could get LeBron, Kobe, and MJ, with these next three picks. But you won a championship with Drew Holiday, shortly after doing the trade. So I mean, you can't come at them for that. And I think people that, like you said, people that come at teams for trades when they win the title, like shortly after, it doesn't make any sense. I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't get that. For me, it's like you win a championship with a trade, it's a win. You can look back and be like, oh, well, we could have had this guy and that guy. Maybe that would have helped us win more championships down the line. Nothing's guaranteed.
That's such hindsight, man. And what if?
Yeah. The only thing guaranteed in the NBA are things that have actually happened, and they won a championship. So that's kind of the way I look at it, and it seems like you also look at it. So
yeah. Also, I just realized I'm wearing my Niang shirt. So
shout out to George Niang, former Sixers legend,
George Niang.
Yeah. All right, we're down to the last few trades. We can go ahead and wrap up here kind of quickly. Let's start with the CP3 ones, and we can go back to the Shea Paul George trade.
Yeah, because I know you really want to go in on that one.
Yeah, I won't go too crazy, but I definitely want to talk about it.
Yeah.
We'll start with the Chris Paul to the Thunder one because that's the first one that happened. Russell Westbrook was traded to the Rockets in exchange for Chris Paul, a 2024 and 2026 first-round pick, which are both somewhat protected. I think they're both top 4 protected. I know the 2024 one is. And then pick swaps in 2021 and 2025. So we didn't end up getting the pick swap in 2021 because their pick was higher than us. And it was also a protection kind of swap thing. It was we got the two highest of our pick, the Heat pick, and the Rockets pick. And we ended up getting our pick and the Heat pick because theirs ended up landing top 4. There was a chance that if we jumped to number 1 and they fell all the way to number 5, we could have gotten 2 top 5 picks.
I remember that.
Super sick. Yeah,
I remember how much you were rooting for that when we were watching the draft lottery together.
Instead, we got pick 6, which, I guess 1 + 5 is 6. So I guess that's what I asked for. We got Giddy out of it, so I'm not complaining. But yeah, I mean, at this point, Chris Paul is looked at as a negative asset across the league. He had become somewhat injury prone. He was fine with the Rockets, but his contract was huge. And I mean, as you can see, we got 2 first-round picks and 2 pick swaps to take Chris Paul on, who ended up making an All-NBA team, who ended up leading us to that amazing season where we almost beat the Rockets in the first round.
For me, this trade is legendary, man. We watched almost every game of that together. That was so fun.
It was. God, it was incredible. Lou Dort's game 7, him versus Harden, Russ coming back halfway through the series after missing a few games, Shea had a 30-piece in there. That series was so much fun.
I don't think I've ever been invested in a playoff series that wasn't involving one of my favorite teams as it was that one.
God, man, that was if I like obviously if I could go back and change like playoff series, I'm gonna go back and change like us losing the finals to the Heat or like losing to the Warriors in 2016. But that one is very high up on the list. I wanted to win that series so bad.
I know you had so many receipts, bro, and there were so many people beefing.
I had so many receipts. I still got to use a lot of them over the course of the season, but man, I had so many receipts. And even we went down 2-0, and I kept tweeting. I was like, from the beginning, I said Thunder in 7. We went down 2-0, and I remember putting out a tweet that was like, we're going to be okay. Or like, it's not over till it's over. Being down 2-0 is not ideal, but I still think we could have done Thunder in 7. And people clowned me. And we brought it all the way back to that game 7. Lou Dort had the 30-piece. We were so close to pulling it off.
Rockets fans like, we knew we had this the whole time, bro.
I still, to this day, believe that if Lou Dort pump fakes that 3 and Harden flies by him, Lou hits that shot. I still believe, and it would have been one of the greatest moments of my life.
Or he gets fouled, or he gets fouled,
or something. Man, it's unfortunate. But I'm glad Lou was the one that was trying to take that shot there because he had been carrying us all game.
Future Sixer Lou Dort.
Oh my gosh, don't even say such a thing. But yeah, I mean, I think we excelled in this deal.
Absolutely.
That the Rockets they're not going to be like the worst team in the league this upcoming season, but there's still a chance that I still think they're going to be a lottery team. So I assume we're going to get that pick. We still have their 2026 first round pick, like a pick swap in 2025. Even if they're good at that point, if we're better, we get an extra capital. Like we got Chris Paul, who's still an all NBA player for that season. This trade was awesome for us. I give us an A, I think, in this deal. Like this was amazing. Obviously we did have to trade Russell Westbrook, who did end up having a really good season in Houston as well. But the value that we got back for Russell Westbrook, who we were trying to deal anyways, like we were trying to go towards the rebuild. I think this was an amazing trade for us.
I agree. It helped. It's just so interesting because you guys were still really competitive, and I'll never forget that graphic where it was like the chance to make the playoffs was like really, really low, and it's just Chris Paul.
The 0.2% graphic. Yep.
I love that graphic, man. One of my favorites.
Me too. That Thunder team, I think to this day is probably my favorite Thunder team. Just because, or that might be or my favorite overall Thunder season because we were defying expectations. I had no championship aspirations. There was no disappointment to be had. I mean, at the end I was disappointed because I wanted us to win, but it wasn't devastating like 2016 or anything like that. Plus it was the first time I was actually on Twitter, so I got to talk to other people about it, which made it super fun. So that still to this day, I think that might be my favorite Thunder season if I had to pick one. That was an incredible year. So from a sentimental perspective, this trade gets an A quadruple plus from me because that team was super fun. But yeah, I think I'd give it just a straight up A for us.
And we'll quickly gloss over real quick the Chris Paul the Suns one, and so that way we can talk about the other.
Did we grade the Russ to the Rockets part?
Russ to the Rockets?
Yeah.
I
guess we didn't really grade that one. I
guess I would give it I feel like it's kind of a wash, man, because they didn't really get anywhere, but it was just another way of trying to shake it up. I think I appreciate them trying because they were still just trying to find a formula that worked with Harden. And
it's also at that point, Chris Paul, it didn't seem like he was going to be able to bounce back. Obviously he did, but it didn't seem like he was going to. I don't hold that against the Rockets too much. It was perceived by a lot of people across the league that he didn't really have value. And Russ was really good in that season. They ended up losing in the second round to the Lakers, but he was really good. And like you said, I do appreciate them trying. For right now, I think I'd give it a C minus. I think, like you said, I think it's kind of a wash. Russ ended up leaving.
We'll have to see what happens with those picks.
Yeah, what'd they get? What was the specifics of the John Wall trade? I know they got John Wall, but I don't remember what draft capital was involved in that. Wasn't it just a future pick from Washington?
Let me check. I'll check real quick. If you want to gloss over the Suns version, I'll look this up real quick.
So Chris Paul to the Suns. The Suns got CP3 and Abdul Nader from us, and we got Ty Jerome, who played here for I think a season and a half, a couple seasons. Jalen Lacroix, Kelly Oubre, who we ended up doing to the Golden State Warriors for I think it was a protected first round pick. Ricky Rubio, who we ended up trading to who did we give Rubio to? I think we might have just
Cavs.
I think he ended up on the Cavs, but I think we might have just cut him.
Really?
Or we dealt him to someone else who dealt him to the Cavs. I don't remember the specifics. And a 2022 first-round pick that ended up becoming Peyton Watson. That one went to the Nuggets in a different deal. We've done a couple of different things with the Denver Nuggets here and there. So didn't get too much value for Chris Paul. It was kind of well known that we were going to go in kind of the rebuilding direction. I think this trade's just fine for us. I give us a C plus. We didn't get anything too crazy. We got a couple assets. For an older player for the Suns. This was a fantastic trade. I think they killed it with this one. Obviously, they made the NBA Finals. They didn't win it, but they made an NBA Finals. Chris Paul was great for them the few seasons. They set a franchise record number of wins, and he was used in that trade to help orchestrate the addition of Bradley Beal, who we'll see how that ends up working out. But it's allowed them to stay competitive, be the best that they've been in a long time. So for the Suns, I'm giving this trade. And they really didn't have to give up too much. I think they get an A+ for this one.
Yeah,
I thought they did a great job.
Outside of the production alone, it helped. I think obviously the bubble kind of helped when they won a bunch of games, but Chris Paul definitely helped transform the culture of that team and, change their reputation for being like the laughing stock of the league to being like a really solid ball club.
Yeah. But, I mean, they were towards the top of the Western Conference for years with Chris Paul on the roster. So
yeah. And it's not like they gave up really anything too crazy either. I mean, they gave a first-round pick to end up being pretty late in the round. Like, I think Peyton Watson was in the 20s, right?
Yeah, Peyton Watson he was a late pick. And like role players that it didn't end up mattering because, again, they made the finals.
I mean, they had to give the most handsome man in the NBA, which is kind of a loss. But, I mean.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, it helped to really facilitate the Wizards trade, which got them Bradley Beal. So, I mean, that's pretty freaking cool. So,
yeah,
I'm with you, man. I think for the Suns, I think it's an A+.
For us, it's just kind of Like, this isn't our best trade. I think it's just fine.
Yeah. How did the Nuggets end up with the Peyton Watson pick?
I don't remember. We've done so many weird deals with the Denver Nuggets. I don't remember.
Also, the John Wall trade, it says it was a 2023 first-round pick to Houston, but it doesn't say who was picked from it, so I don't know. I wonder if it didn't convey. Oh, the first-round pick was lottery protected. So the Wizards were in the lottery, so they.
Oh, okay. So what we did was we traded that pick and a 2023 second-round pick. That in 2 seconds last June, I remember this trade. We took on JaMychal Green for them and got a 2027 first-round pick instead. So basically, we kind of like kicked the Nuggets pick down the road to 2027 rather than taking it now. So that's what we did with that. So it's we don't know yet what that pick's going to look like. I remember that deal. So yeah, that trade's kind of whatever. And finally, we can wrap up. We won't take too long on this because I know you need to get sleep and actually pack your trip.
I apologize in advance. I've been yawning during this podcast. I know Connor's not boring me to death when he talks, man. I had work at 8:00 this morning, and I'm flying out in less than 12 hours. So
you had like a beach day and stuff too.
Yeah,
like you played disc golf.
I am a tired boy, man. We wanted to pump up some content since I'm gonna be gone for the next 3 or 4 days. So we wanted to, get something out there. So then when I get back next week, we can record something else. And like we were saying, Connor's gonna be in town next week, so I think we won't have the split. I'll be able to do this, and I'll be able to hit him in the head. It won't be a separate screen.
I'm glad that's the thing that you're prioritizing here, is that you can smack me in the head when we're having an in-person.
But I think it's funny. We should set up like a StreamYard, and it looks like we're in separate halves, and I'm just gonna put my hand through the screen like this, and it's just gonna go.
Well, get like a white cardboard cutout kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll set something up cool for y'all. I don't even know where we're gonna do this.
Yeah, we'll figure this out.
But we can do the Shea PG trade. So Thunder get Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, Danilo Gallinari, a 2022 Clippers pick, which has become Jalen Williams.
I'd say that was a dub. A J-dub, maybe.
Yeah, that was a J-dub. God, I hate you. 2024 first-round pick, 2026 first-round pick, a Miami 2021 pick, which became Trey Mann, a Miami 2023 first-round pick protected, which is now a later pick because we kicked it down the road for them a little bit to kind of free that up. And we have a swap with the Clippers in 2023 and 2025. So that swap in 2023 obviously didn't end up conveying because the Clippers were higher than us, but we have a swap in 2025. Obviously a lot here with this deal. In total, it is 5 first-round picks, 2 pick swaps, Shea, Danilo Gallinari.
Crazy ball, man.
I think it's pretty clearly an A+ for us. Like, I don't think I need to elaborate on why this is an A+. We got Shea, who is an all-NBA first-team guard at this point. I think he's a future MVP. We got a solid season out of Danilo Gallinari. That Clippers pick becoming Jalen Williams, who looks like he could also be a future All-Star coming out of this haul.
I love that man. He's one of my favorite young players, I think, to watch.
I'm gonna give Ryan credit for this. When we drafted him, like, I was like high on him going into the draft and stuff like that. When we got him, I was stoked. But Ryan watched like one summer league game of Jalen Williams playing, and he said that guy's a future All-Star. I'll give Ryan deserves credit for that. I'm going to give him that moment.
I did, man. I think I was watching. I think not even the summer league, bro. I did watch summer league of him, but I think on draft night too, they were showing highlights of like, this dude is him. Like, I don't know. Yeah. I was definitely an early believer.
Yeah. So I have to give Ryan his credit for that one. So we got Jalen Williams, Trey Mann. We'll see what ends up happening with him. He has had a rocky first 2 seasons, but he looked great in summer league. He's still got a chance to be a good player. and I'm excited to see what he does this upcoming season. We've got future picks. I mean, the Clippers, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard both have player options at the end of this season, so they could potentially leave in this offseason.
Make this trade become like an A+++ if they both leave.
If they both leave, like this is one of the greatest trades of all time.
Like this is up there with the Nets, Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett. I feel like that's up there with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's potential for this to go from like A+ to like a 37 pluses if the Clippers end up blowing it up at any time soon. And I mean, like that 2026 first round pick, at that point, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are both going to be in like their late 30s. So even if they're both there, like, how good is that roster going to be? I don't need to talk too much about this. I think you all know how I feel about this trade and how good this trade has been.
How do you grade it for the Clippers, though?
See, that's the hard thing, because one thing I do think people don't give the Clippers enough credit for is the fact that this trade got them Kawhi Leonard too. If they don't make this deal, they don't get Kawhi Leonard. So the Thunder had leverage for that.
Kawhi said he would approve a trade, or he would go to the Clippers if they were able to get Paul George also. It was something like that. I don't remember the exact context, but it was something along those lines.
He said he was like, okay, like I will sign with you in LA if you get Paul George. That's basically what he said. So they had to get PG. We had a bunch of leverage because of that.
And because you didn't have to blow it up. It's kind of like the Jazz we were talking about earlier. Like, you didn't have to blow it up.
Yeah, it was like under wraps that Paul George and Russ kind of wanted out. Like, we didn't know that for sure. But it was like, it was, I don't even remember if there were rumors about it, to be honest. This was like when I first got on Twitter. So this was kind of murky. Like, I wasn't like I am now where I'm
Wasn't there a thing where Paul George was like, I'm staying here forever, and then he got traded like right after that?
It was the offseason before he re-signed with us and said, like, I'm staying in Oklahoma City. Like, this is where I want to be. And then, we lost the Blazers in the first round. And I believe it was either him or Russ or both of them were kind of like, we don't know how this thing's going to work. So I think they like kind of low key requested trades or were like, hey, could you look into this for us? But it wasn't like a public trade request, which did also help us a lot. So we end up
for you guys.
Yeah, we get a haul for Paul George. And, obviously I think this is like a perfect grade for us, like the best you could possibly do. For the Clippers, it's tough because I do think this was the right deal in that moment, trading for Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. If they don't end up winning a championship, like the grade, I think goes down the toilet. They still got a shot, and we'll see if these picks end up conveying. For right now, because they haven't won a championship and because, these two guys have been kind of hurt, I'm going to give it like a C minus, I think right now, because you give up a bunch of assets. But at the same time, if you can bring Paul George and Kawhi Leonard into Los Angeles, like if they had a chance to go back, do it again, like did they still want to make this trade with all the knowledge they have now? And maybe it ends up playing out differently. I still think they make this trade.
I agree. I think knowing the way Shea would pan out and that you would not get Jade out, I think you still do the trade.
Yeah.
Because it's like you said, it's almost like you were trading for Paul George and Kawhi Leonard.
Exactly. And if you give up all, like, sure, this is a lot, but you get Kawhi Leonard and Paul George for this trade, I think you make that deal if you're the Clippers. You get two of the best players in your franchise history. You turn yourself into immediate championship favorites in a lot of people's eyes. I think you do that for sure, like every single time.
I agree.
I don't blame the Clippers at all. I know a lot of people probably expected me to just dunk on the Clippers with this, and maybe down the line I will if it ends up becoming a disaster. But they made the Western Conference Finals with Kawhi being injured. He got hurt in that second round series against the Utah Jazz. If he doesn't get injured, maybe they end up winning a championship or at least, making it to the finals, which the Clippers have never done. Maybe they still end up competing for a title. Like, there's still time. I'm boring Ryan to death here, so I'll go ahead and wrap this up.
No, man.
I saw the yawn if y'all are listening on audio. No, I'm just, I'm going back to exactly what you said. Whatever. It's fine. I'm not mad. But yeah, I mean, for the Clippers, I think I'm going to go C minus for this right now because it's somewhat incomplete. We don't know yet how this story is going to end for the Clippers with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. It's not looking good. They had to give up a bunch of assets that were huge for us, with Shea, J-Dub, all these first round picks, but they still are a really good squad. There's still a chance they compete for a title. And again, like we said, I think if they've got the chance, they go back and do it all over again.
And I think I have a really good feeling that by the time the season ends, we'll be able to give this trade a very accurate grade. You know what I mean?
Yeah. This kind of is the make or break season.
This is the make or break season for the Clippers because there's been stuff out that Kawhi's feeling good, right?
Kawhi got a knee procedure, I think, this offseason. Just like I think they were like cleaning out debris in his knee, which, you're the physical therapist type of guy. Like, you probably know more about that than me.
Nah, his knee's fine.
Well, Ryan has his official diagnosis is that Kawhi's knee is fine. I mean, the thing is, when he was healthy last year, he was still incredible. It's just a matter of can he actually stay healthy, like him and Paul George. Because if they can stay on the court, they look good.
Yeah,
and when they had Russ in town,
he'll be fully healthy for training camp.
We'll see. We'll see how it looks. I know Tyronn Lue said
he's going to be fully ready and back to his All-NBA self. We'll see.
I know Tyronn Lue did say that he wants them to take the regular season more seriously, which I appreciate because I do think they need more time to build chemistry.
I do feel like they lollygag almost a little bit too much. You know what I mean? Because it is true you don't need to go all in the regular season. But I mean, you kind of have to find some middle ground. I feel like
you've got to build some type of chemistry and
and some momentum and
develop an identity. They just feel like they felt like this like gray blob of a basketball team last year, where it was Kawhi Leonard will play sometimes, PG will play sometimes. We are mid on offense and mid on defense. But when we hit the playoffs, look out for us. And they looked good against the Suns, even without Kawhi and Paul George for most of that series. So maybe they end up getting those two guys. They look really good this season.
I'm interested to see Russ with them for a full year.
Me too. I think he gives them a lot of different things. Maybe they end up getting James Harden too. Like that's also something that could be thrown into this if they end up getting James and battling for a title.
Story. That's a pod for another day.
That's a pod for another day. So yeah, with that, I think we can go ahead and wrap this thing up. If you want to see us talk about more trades like this, go ahead and let us know. Again, with the offseason, there's really nothing going on. I think we want to do like some drafts and stuff like that. Like, drafting maybe some all-time teams.
I think that all-star draft is something that we should do next time. I think when I get back.
Yeah, we can do that next time.
We should do that. We should do that as our. Maybe we can maybe we can somehow get some board and we'll be in a room together. We'll do.
We can get like a whiteboard or something.
Here's what we should do. We should print cutouts of like the people's faces, and we'll like plaster them on the wall or something.
Do like a fantasy football draft kind of thing.
We should try to come up with something like that. I think that'd be cool.
So if basically what the idea is for next podcast, this is something that Through the Wire did, I think last year or the year before. They did one of those years where they did like a first-time all-star draft, which I think is a pretty cool idea. Pretty much they just selected a team or like a roster of like 10 or so players that could potentially be first-time all-stars. And you just see at the end, you go back at the all-star break and you see how everyone did, who got the most. We'll do like a randomizer.
We each pick 10 or we each pick 5?
We each pick. I mean, I forget how many they did, but they've got 4 guys. There's 2 of us here. We could probably just like each pick 10 or something like that.
Cool.
Maybe the number would change. We could go up to like 15 if we want to get really crazy with it and start doing super obscure players. But yeah, so that's an idea that we have for next podcast episode. So that might be something we'll do. As always, if you loved, I don't know why I said loved. If you just even enjoyed a little bit, or if you made it to the end here,
literally, if you're listening to us at the hour 20 mark, bro, just like the video, man. Like, come on,
please. Like
I'm sitting here fighting for my life to put out content for you guys, and you can't like the freaking video.
Speaking of YouTube as like a living thing, likes help a ton for videos. Like they help a lot. Same with comments. So just comment anything down below. I think last time we gave you a phrase to comment. What do we do this time?
Oh, Ryan, go to sleep.
Yeah, comment Ryan, go to sleep if you made it to the end of this podcast episode. Like I said, leave a like, subscribe to the channel. We're going to be dropping more stuff. If you've got any content ideas, let us know. Any drafts that you want to see, like things like the
tier list.
Also, draft.
We're doing a tier list.
We want to do tier list videos. We could do like an all-time draft or something like that, or just like maybe a favorite players of all time draft.
We're gonna get through this offseason, man. We'll get through these Harden Dame trade requests together, guys. We got this.
There will be content, even if nothing is happening. There will still be content here on the 2-Man Game channel. So be on the lookout for that. Check us out on Spotify. Rate us 5 stars. Pre-download the podcast. Everything in between. We appreciate you all as always. Thank you for tuning into another episode. We'll see you next week at some point, probably with that also draft episode. Ryan, you got anything you want to wrap up with?
Predict down below. There's 180 people in my tournament that I'm playing in this weekend. Predict what place I get below.
Predict Ryan's place in the tournament.
My final prediction, I'm saying it here, 27th.
If you get it right, we'll send you $1.
I'll send you $10 if you guess what place I get.
Oh, Ryan will send you 10. Ryan is up the ante from $1 to $10.
I will send $10 on Venmo to whoever guesses correctly what place I get.
You can win $10. So,
and if I you can't guess 27th, if I get 27th, I'm sending. Then one of y'all owe me $10.
Oh, okay.
Connor, what's your official guess, Connor? You give me a guess, and I'll give you $10 if you get it right.
You said 27th.
Out of one, so there's 180 people. I think I get 27th.
I'm confident. I'm gonna go 18th.
18th. I rock with it.
I'm gonna say go with that. Ryan has gone blurry again, so that's our sign to head out. I appreciate it as always. Ryan's falling asleep. He's yawning. He's literally trying to phase out of existence, so I stopped talking. We'll see you all next episode. Take care.
Peace.